I put Ella back into the program because she wasn't able to be here, but great to have you. And so, Ella, please join us for your presentation. Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Now, sorry, could you just push the one on the right? It's up, perfect. The floor's yours, thanks.
So firstly, I would just like to say how frustrating it is to have to be back here again after being here last time and still nothing has happened. I think my biggest frustration is that we live in a town where the arts are severely undervalued by a lot of people, and being someone who makes a living in the arts, it's difficult to feel welcome in a town where sporting especially is completely overshadows the arts in a lot of ways. I have around, I think I've probably had around 300 or 400 students take singing lessons with me over the past 10 years. And I'm only one singing teacher in Timaru. There's a lot of other performing arts people in Timaru. And that's a lot of children that are going through different performing arts, whether it's speech and drama or singing or dance. And it's quite upsetting that all of those people don't have facilities that are usable, that they can perform in, unlike a lot of sporting places where there's amazing hockey turfs and amazing swimming pools, and that's just very disappointing, and it makes living in Timaru a lot harder than it needs to be, really. I am very for the theatre being upgraded. I love the historic elements of the theatre, and I think it would be a massive shame to Timaru to lose that. We have the largest collection of Edwardian buildings in the Southern Hemisphere, and that's not really promoted, and to lose our amazing theatre as well would be, I think, very devastating for the town. But in saying that, the backstage part of the theatre is not fit for purpose. It's completely unusable the way it is at the moment for modern theatre. Having been built 100 years ago, it's just not going to cut it, and the council needs to make sure that the plans for the theatre upgrade are completely, take that fully into account, so that we can have all of the productions, whether it be shows, whether it be individual singing performances by New Zealand artists from around the world, local people that want to use it. I mean, in the past you've had the Jump Jam and like the Flava Festival and all sorts of things that have been at the Theatre Royal, and at the moment they don't have anywhere amazing that they can perform at. But we need to make sure that all of those backstage areas are really usable. We need dressing rooms that are a big enough size to accommodate for large numbers of people using them. We need space for backstage crews to be able to sit down. I mean, in the past at the theatre, if you were working backstage, you basically never got to sit down because the kitchen fit like 3 people in it, and you might have a crew of like 50 or 60, and if you're there working a rehearsal that's 12 hours, that's a long time to not even be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee. And in the last plans, there was no plan to change the size of the kitchen, which is just seems ridiculous to me. I am definitely not against the heritage building or anything like that. I think that would be great, but I do think that it's important for the heritage building to not overshadow the theatre. We already do have a museum, and whether it's not big enough at the moment and we can improve on that is a different issue, but the theatre is not in commission, like we can't use it at all, so we're lacking that very important feature of our town. I think that going forward there needs to be somebody who represents the theatre, because there hasn't really been anybody involved in the process who represents the theatre from a Timaru standpoint, who understands how the theatre is used by people in Timaru. And I think that that's really important. Thank you. Would you like to say anything?
May I say something?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're on time, so we'll,
Okay,
go for it.
just
Thanks,
just
Nikki.
very quickly, when you look back in history and you look back at great disasters, the Great Wars, earthquake in Christchurch, the first thing to be built after what happened in Christchurch was the Court Theatre. And why? Because people want to be entertained. They want a place where they can go and feel happy and feel safe and be entertained. 1987, when Wall Street crashed, Broadway was sold out within 3 weeks. This is where the theatre takes people. Option A, yes. Backstage is not fit for purpose, as it is. Anybody who has worked backstage, and I can probably take 4 people in this room that's worked backstage, myself included, on many occasions. There wasn't even a wheelchair access. It has to be right. We get one chance at doing it right. And I feel that you have this great opportunity to entertain your people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Any questions? No, all good. Really appreciate that. Thanks for putting the time in, and appreciate you coming in an alternative time. So really appreciate that, and well thought through. Thank you. Go now. We've got Ellen. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you.
No worries. Nice to see you. And the floor's yours. So you've got 5 minutes, and if you want to
I won't need that.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, Alan, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Alan Robert is my name. I worked and lived in Timaru for 40 years. And I wanted to take this opportunity because I think the main reason I'm doing this is that the theatre has been now closed for 3 years. We have really missed the dance, the musicals, the bands and the entertainers who used to come to Timaru. We really have become a cultural oasis, and having to travel to Christchurch, Oamaru or Dunedin to attend these things. And also, of course, the hospitality industry is lost out enormously in Timaru, and the other businesses as well. I personally was very disappointed when I saw that demolishing the theatre was not an option at this stage, and I really feel very strongly that it should be. As a ratepayer, I am very concerned that the increased costs of the theatre upgrade, as I'm sure they will continue to do so. We all know that once you start digging into an old building, you usually come across some unexpected problems. Ashburton, as you know, has built a superb modern theatre with all the extras which people want to have today. They and many of the new builds now around the world, around New Zealand, are using a tilt slab construction, which is quicker, and thus surely it must be cheaper than what we're looking at here now in Timaru. Even at this stage, you could surely get a ballpark figure on costings, what this sort of thing would do, what it would cost, rather than what we're trying to do here. Unfortunately, the old theatre has served its purpose, and I think we should move on. I think you could find that quite a large number of Timaru people would agree on this approach. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Brilliant, thanks Alan, I think point well made. So, but any questions at all? Probably not, but yeah,
Okay.
well
Well,
made.
thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate
Cheers.
you making the time. Go now to Hugh. Welcome, Hugh.
Waiting.
So you've only got 5 minutes, Hugh, but the size of that file, we might need
I
some.
might be here all day.
Floor's yours.
Okay. So, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I had anticipated coming well prepared for today, but I've been stymied because of council procedures. I asked for information about the foundations for the Theatre Royal and the engineer's report. The response that I got was, sorry, that's been treated as a request under the Official Information of Meetings Act. So I might have a response in 10 to 20 working days if you want to hear from me now. That's the kind of frustration that citizens are facing, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous that it's not made available to me for this meeting. Anyway, that's so be it. So I would have liked to have seen the engineer's report. I've seen reports about instability with bricks being removed to extend the building into what's going to, or planned to be, the museum, and that's obviously going to, not just the foundations, but the stability, as I understand it, of the whole building is going to be affected. The cost of the project's extended beyond a joke, and ratepayers are being asked to fork out an extraordinary amount. I've already made points previously about looking for sponsorship and looking to other ways of contributing funds other than ratepayers' funds. And I think there is a way, and I think Councillor Jackson has shown that previously by what he managed to do with Seaplane. The theatre's been closed for 3 years. Why? I mean, I know it takes a while to get all this information together. Now I can't even get the engineer's report that's been assembled. The Drama League's made a huge contribution to our community over the years, and they've been stopped in their tracks by it being closed. We can't have other functions here. I believe the theatre's been stripped of its seating and so on. I wonder whether it could be temporarily reopened if time's taken to look at what's been suggested, I believe, and that's starting afresh and starting with a brand new building. So I would also like to see a councillor, or maybe two councillors, taking a lead role for such a significant project. Where can I go for information? Go to the council staff. Then they respond, go to the Official Information Act. Absolute rubbish. I want to see a councillor who's prepared to put his shoulders back, or her shoulders back, and get stuck into this and make it something for our community. We have a heap of patched up jobs. We have the library roof that's been patched, supposed to last for 10 years. We know the situation with our art gallery and the house galleries closed. Now you can't even get tenders to fix it up. The museum hasn't got enough room. And the theatre complex, well, that's been pulled apart and come to a standstill. Let's be positive. Let's get in behind it, and let's all work together. And the community, I think, will work in as well. In the long-term plan, that may have to change, or there may have to be an amendment to it. It's good to have long-term plans, but in this day and age, things change quickly. We've had, as been mentioned, COVID, and then we've got the shortage of supplies and so on, all of which is affecting costing. We should be amending the long-term plan, and we should go back to square one. I think that we, as I've heard for a couple of submissions, we need a new building. We need a complex that is adequate, that's going to be something of heritage for our children and our grandchildren. What's the patch-up job going to do? Is that going to give a heritage item for the future? Is it going to look good? I have slightly enlarged picture. I'm actually quite sick of the band-aids that council keeps putting on things. I've stuck a couple of band-aids on this picture because, to me, the join between the two doesn't go well. That's a matter of opinion, perhaps, but it doesn't go well aesthetically. At the very least, I think that should be revisited. I'm sick of patch-up jobs with the library, with the museum, and now with our theatre. The house gallery needs repairs. It's not even open either. So what have we got? We've got a massive mess, and we haven't got any art facilities of significance. Time to get back to the table, time to think carefully, and time to do something that's going to be of heritage for future generations. You can't keep patching up old jobs all the time. The old stone house, was it, where the Theatre Royal is, has been patched up lots of times. The 1990s renovation made it look great, and I was really impressed with that. But it's had its day, and it's not suitable for modern productions. So I think that we need to, and I would urge councillors to reconsider the whole concept. We've got land, we've got buildings that the council owns. I'm absolutely certain that something better can be done with it, and possibly at a better cost than patching up an old building. And goodness knows, as has been mentioned, what we might find once you start pulling out the bricks and getting into it. So my submission is to go back to square one and to have a councillor who's prepared to go shoulders back and take charge of this project. They might be frightened of losing votes, but they might lose votes if someone doesn't step in and take charge of a significant project that's going to be the future for our heritage and our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Hugh? Well, at one point, I think I'd disagree that we're not available. You sent me a video on Sunday night, and you haven't, taken the opportunity, and you could have at any time. We're connected on Messenger, so I'd say that's a point not well made. I think we're all very available, and anyone would have made contact if you'd reached out with the elected members.
In reply to that, I have reached out. I mean, I've reached out to our mayor. And there's a difference between being available and actually responding with something positive. And why hasn't the council come forward and made those plans available to me? Why hide behind the Official Information Act? That's incredible.
And that request was made on last Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Thanks, Hugh. Appreciate it. Thanks for your submission.
And councillors, and good luck with the decision. I hope we get something that's going to be remarkable.
Thank you. Alrighty. Jackie, is Tony joining us on?
Yes, he's joined by Zoom. He's not there.
He's not there yet?
As yet.
No, that's cool. Is Jerry here yet? No, I saw Bev's out there, isn't she? Welcome, Bev.
Good morning. This is rather daunting. All these people.
They're pretty intimidating, especially those Temuka ones, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're pretty intimidating, especially those Temuka ones over there.
I'm not sure if I can hear if my hearing aids are working properly or not. Might be adjusting them.
No worries. Look, welcome, and the floor's yours. You've got 5 minutes to talk to us.
Right. Now, my submission that I put in says, and I'll find the right pages now. I'll go in the discussion. In my opinion, the new plan for the theatre is not fit for purpose. Patrons should be able to see the stage clearly from all seats downstairs. The only way this can be achieved is by having a sloped floor from the stage to the back of the theatre. Think about Mountain View High School Theatre, the Little Theatre in Timaru. A perfect view of the stage from every seat. The reason the area is sloped from the stage to the back of the buildings. The Ashburton Theatre design enables patrons to see the stage clearly from every seat, as it is sloped from stage to back of the auditorium. A purpose-built theatre, my suggestion, build a new theatre in Timaru, which is fit for purpose. A theatre where patrons can see clearly, where performers have excellent backstage facilities, and whatever else is needed in a modern theatre. Patrons do not want to spend money on expensive tickets to see a show and not see the stage clearly. As I stated in my submission, I paid $80 to see the Russian ballet at the Theatre Royal. That would be a couple of years ago now, isn't it? I couldn't see the stage clearly. A couple of days later, I found another $80 and went up to Ashburton to see the same show at their theatre, a perfect view. The reason? Because it's sloped right from the stage to the top of the building. So why waste all this money? I don't know if the right word is waste. Why pay all this money for something that I could see in the plan as not sloping the downstairs part of the Theatre Royal? To me, it is a waste of money. Build a new theatre. Heritage, somewhere I read that Heritage New Zealand doesn't want you to bulldoze that or etc., etc. Now, why should they have the final say about our theatre or what is best for Timaru? They're not paying extra rates nor paying to see shows where we cannot see the performance clearly. The front of the three buildings in the plans to me also seem a mishmash of styles. Bluestone front of hotel looks so out of place to me. The architects might have a different opinion. I understand we need a purpose-built museum. I will leave that to the experts to solve that problem. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to enjoying the shows in the new purpose-built theatre. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Booth.
Thanks for that, Bev.
Yes, right, fine, right. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Bev. That was excellent, and I had read your submission. Did the lack of character perhaps detract from your experience in the Ashburton Theatre compared to the Timaru Theatre?
Tell me again. Sorry.
did the lack of character, because some people have said the character, we need to keep the character of the old building, and there was a comment that said that the Ashburton Theatre didn't have any character because it was new, it was a new build, but it was obviously a lot more effective because it has steeper seating, and the view was a lot more appropriate than and user friendly than perhaps what is at our Theatre Royal.
Indeed, it was. I mean, the important thing, I mean, I've seen shows all around the world, so to speak, especially in London and Australia, and I know there's old theatres there, but the important thing is when you go to the theatre, you go to see and hear the performance. And if you can't see it properly, you're disappointed about it all. So I didn't mind, to me it's a new theatre, and new is different from old.
Yeah, so it's a combination of a quality sound and a quality view.
Indeed, it needs
Right.
to be, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions with Bev? Thank you. Appreciate your passion for the theatre. And no, all good. Thanks so much. Appreciate you making the time and effort.
Well, thank you for listening. It's a bit daunting, isn't it, seeing you all here and all the audience as well. And some people I know and some I don't. Well, we tell Mr. Shannon. Thank you very much indeed.
Miss Green, you'll be interested to know that my father turned 72 on Sunday, because I know that you taught him.
That makes me feel really old. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you. Thank you.
I think I was more daunted than Bev was at having the school teacher present to us. Where do we get to? Is Tony online? No, he's still not online. No, that's cool. Let's bring forward Troy. We may be able to allocate Troy in another minute because I'm sure he's would welcome a little bit extra time. Welcome, Troy, and we need to get your presentation up, do we?
Thank you. It is good to be around the table with you all, albeit as a member of the public. So I trust you've read my my submission, but today I will be requesting a bit more allocation of time because it is quite lengthy for what I've done, and I've also got a PowerPoint presentation to accompany my presentation today as well, so hopefully that's going to be up on the screen shortly. So you'll note that I don't support any of the options that have been consulted on. Rather, the concept and vision that I'm presenting here today is, in my opinion, an option 4, an option I believe is being viable and a financially prudent option. I have read every submission to this consultation, and there are some errors that I've picked up on. The errors I've identified are on the paper I've provided to you. I have identified 23 people who should be identified added to the no option selected list. Their feedback expressed is contrary to the option that they have ticked. I consider this to be that they were led to believe that they had to choose an option, whether it was in order to proceed with the consultation form submission, or that there was no other option that reflected their views, like an option 4. Based on my analysis, instead of 52 submitters who selected other, it should really be 75, which would increase the percentage from 8.3% to 11.9% to select other. In August, the projected cost for the project, as you know, was 29.3 million. However, on September the 8th, this cost had increased to 39.6 million, thank you, according to MB. And then on the following day, on September the 9th, Council confirmed it could cost up to 57 million. This is a massive increase, which I'm sure is on your mind. The public behind me may also not be aware of the potential cost increases coming up of other projects. Do the public know that the Aorangi Southern Trust Events Centre is potentially going to increase in cost from 23 million to 42.5 million, that our rates could rise 7.5 to 8.5%? I'm not making these numbers up. These numbers are from the Commercial and Strategy meeting from last month. In Nelson, just last month, the council decided to stop their $47 million development of a new library, citing, and I quote, "unaffordable for our community in the current economic environment. It is probably the most challenging economic times for more than a decade," unquote. To have Sharon Taylor, the former Group Manager of Community Services, and Tina Rogers, the former Group Manager of Corporate Services, two former senior council staff, come out and register their opposition to this Theatre Royal Heritage Hub proceeding speaks volumes to that you as councillors must heed their advice. To not give proper consideration to such professional advice from senior staff is irresponsible. Hence, I urge you to halt proceedings on this project, reassess and potentially pivot toward building a new theatre and community multi-use facility. I think the south end of Stafford Street, it contains mainly industrial and commercial premises. The south end should really be for inner city apartment living. Heed the call by Venture Timaru, who are asking for the provision of diversified inner city and apartment living. I fear that we are putting money toward a white elephant Lego block, a building built in different time periods of different foundations and materials. Scientific literature and GNS say that it's a matter of when, not if, a major earthquake occurs again. Do we really want to have a financial liability on our hands, a risk in terms of building being a liability from a health and safety standpoint, or earthquake compliance, and risk in terms of continual maintenance and repairs of an ageing building? I challenge council officers rebuking Caroline Bay of being a feasible option of a new facility. On page 241 of the agenda, council officers say that Caroline Bay is subject to a tsunami and a large earthquake event. I find that comment misleading, as decision makers need to be provided with accurate and impartial information. Phil Mackay, Council's own emergency management advisor, has said just last month that Timaru's tsunami hazard is lower than other parts of New Zealand, and because there are no known significant tsunami sources off the South Canterbury coast, and our coastline shape does not amplify tsunami waves. ECAN and GNS modelling has shown that Caroline Bay is less likely to be affected by a tsunami should one occur. In 2007, Ashburton built a brand new event centre and theatre costing $7 million. In today's money, that would cost about $10 million. We could get nearly 6 new multi-use theatre and event centres for the price of one Theatre Royal Heritage Hub. We can get better bang for buck. We must pivot our attention to Caroline Bay for an all-new facility. Heritage New Zealand remarks of a theatre that very little of the original structure remains. So I challenge the actual historical value of the building if very little of its originality remains. The majestic theatre in Christchurch, which was affected in the earthquakes, was a heritage to a building like the Theatre Royal. However, due to the cost of restoration, which would have cost upwards of $18 million at the time, it was demolished due to the risks it posed. With regard to the museum, I believe we must relook our provision of what a museum experience looks like. I suggest the council looks at separating the museum into themes. To this extent, I propose the South Canterbury Natural History and Life Sciences Museum, a museum catered for the interaction, educational, engaging, stimulating and thought-provoking exhibits as seen in this slide. A museum that caters specifically for natural history and artefacts ensures that people can appreciate a museum with a specific theme. My concept ensures that this is provided for in the current Perth Street Museum site. So what about the non-natural history elements like the Māori, early settler, Art Deco and retro content? I suggest this is established in the current Egantai Art Gallery and that this becomes the South Canterbury Egantai Historical Museum. The extensions of the Egantai do not need to be demolished and redeveloped as per the long-term plan, but instead could host in its current footprint the historical early settler, vintage and antique and travelling exhibitions. Imagine the Egantai extensions now hosting the iconic lifeboat, the Richard Pearse model. By using the current Egantai footprint, costs are saved and space is created at the Perth Street Museum site, as well as expanded into Egantai. So what about the Egantai homestead? I suggest that this is fully restored to the 3.7 million that is budgeted in the long-term plan. It is noted that it will be a third from council, a third from government, and a third from community funding. This becomes our district's heritage hub. Wouldn't it be fantastic to have a heritage house hosting heritage museum pieces from the period, which each room of the heritage house can cater for each time period from the 1900s to 1960s? This is what makes a heritage house a time capsule. It can be a proper heritage attraction and destination. This is your new heritage hub. Some may question my proposal of separating the museum into themes under different premises and buildings. However, this addresses the storage and exhibition limitations currently facing the museum site and ensures the Egantai homestead is restored and can visit a museum based on their taste. Separating museums according to themes is best practice throughout New Zealand. For example, Dunedin has 3 museums: the Early Settler Museum, Toitu, catering for the Māori settler historical and automotive developments, the Dunedin Museum, which caters for the interactive learning and science aspects, and thirdly, a natural history museum of bones and artefacts. These museums are all within 1.5 kilometres of each other. The distance between Egantai and the Perth Street Museum site is 1.4 kilometres. It is doable. It saves costs. We just need some vision. So the art gallery. Now with the artworks of the art gallery, the fifth most expensive art collection in New Zealand. However, 1,500 of the artworks of this collection are in storage, hidden from public view. I propose the existing Caroline Bay Hall as the new art gallery venue. This venue now becomes the Timaru Public Art Gallery, a place and space with the capacity to host all 1,500 artworks, with some investment into security, interior design, humidity and temperature control, decor and lighting. Caroline Bay can serve as the new art gallery. We do not have to demolish and build a new gallery, rather we can update and modernise Caroline Bay Hall. This has movable art display walls that can be adjusted according to each exhibit and space enough to host all 1,500 pieces. Friends of Egantai now get what they requested: a full restoration of Egantai Heritage House and now a new venue to host all 1,500 works. A compromise in some respects, but it's a win-win. This here is Caroline Bay Lounge, but with some vision. I propose this can be something a whole lot different. I propose the all-new Timaru Theatre and Community Hall facility, a modern, up-to-date, multi-purpose facility containing all the requirements for a modern theatre, accounts for the stakeholders, a community hall, hosts banquets and events, seminar rooms, and a small boutique restaurant if necessary. Car parking at the Caroline Bay is already in abundance. No need to build a car park on Barnard Street. This saves further expenses on bitumen, landscaping, curb and channel lighting, signage and painted lines. With $10 million saved from not pursuing the Egantai extension demolition and a reallocation of 57 million saved from not pursuing the Theatre Heritage Hub, we can be properly allocated to a new theatre and community hall facility and get the best bang for buck. So there you have it, Caroline Bay, home to one of the top 10 beaches in New Zealand, home to the new Soundshell seating, Trevor Griffiths Rose Gardens, best playground in the Southern Hemisphere, Sea Play, next door to the 5th most art collection in New Zealand, Timaru Public Art Gallery next door to a modern earthquake-proof, future-proofed, multi-purpose facility. This is what will complement and make Caroline Bay a destination one to play, view exhibits and enjoy. Small project compromises in order to achieve long-term financial stability while still able to deliver services. What I've proposed today, a fair and balanced outcome to ensure all parties get something rather than nothing, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thanks, Troy. Well thought through. You spent some time on this one. Questions for Troy? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Troy. So what do you say to the regeneration of Stafford Street and City Hub, saying you're taking away our theatre, we want to make Stafford Street alive again and you want to put it down the bay? What do you say to those businesses in Stafford Street?
Well, I think the south end of Stafford Street is a different environment altogether compared to central and north Stafford Street up to the Bay Hill. And I've noted that in my submission. The south end of Stafford Street, as you'll note, has paint shops, an automotive dealership, a distillery warehouse, power tool shop. It's a different environment, and I just don't think a $57 million facility down at that end will rejuvenate the area. Inner city apartment living is what needs to happen at the south end, because that's what brings people to town, and yeah, that's what I proposed.
Any further questions? Just one for me, you appear to put more weight on ex-staff than current staff.
Yep. They're former group managers, I understand, but they would have been involved in this because the 2018 LTP had the Theatre Royal, and those staff, I believe, were still here at that time. So, yeah.
Alrighty, no further questions. Thank you. Thanks for the well-informed, lots of challenges in that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got Jackie's Tony now. So we've got Tony who's joining us online, and Tony will be speaking through his iPad. So just bear with until we get him connected. Oh, welcome, Tony. Can you hear me okay? I think we're ready, are we? The floor is yours, Tony. Oh, no, that's right. We'll just wait for you to connect. Perfect. You can hear me okay, and I'll pass to you, Tony, to present. Thank you.
Thank you for being so patient and listening to all the various points of view. I will be short, but I have a very strong message to you. Don't let the naysayers influence your thinking at all. There are always some that will not commit to anything, asking what would be the best course of action for Timaruvians today, tomorrow and years ahead. There is only one option to choose. Option 1. There was a lot of debate and controversy over Te Papa. I can't remember how much it cost, or the Auckland Art Gallery, or the Sea Bay Complex, or the stadium, or the bleachers, or the many expansions that now draw people to Timaru, and the Bay facilities. Nobody will remember the cost of the new theatre complex. They will simply enjoy the facilities that it provides, and most importantly give thanks that someone had the foresight to do it and make a commitment. Just do the only option, option 1, and do it now. The longer you allow people to defer or detract or debate, the more expensive it will become and look less and less attainable. I'll certainly be at the first show and the first exhibition. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Came through loud and clear. We know exactly where you sit on this. Thank you, and thanks for making the opportunity. Any questions? I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that or not, but any questions? No. All good. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, well presented. No worries. A pleasure. Nice to see you. Alrighty, thank you. Now we move next. We've got Jerry. Welcome, Jerry.
Well, that's rather interesting to hear Tony, because he's almost like a mind reader. I'm completely impressed by what Troy has presented, And I think that's a vision for a big city, because Timaru is not a big city, and it has some sort of coziness, but we're missing that because there are lots of empty places. And so I am in total support of option 1, and the people that are not on council here would need to understand, which is in accordance with what Tony said. We want to make a new atmosphere. We have been waiting for a long time. All these places are empty, they're not working, and so we're waiting for something. And a town like Timaru and the environment around it needs culture. We've had difficult times. We haven't been able to go out much. We're going to shows in Ashburton, and so it needs to keep the atmosphere of the street. And although opposite what Troy seems to think, you can actually change the street and the opportunities there. So if you had the option 1 and you go ahead with it, then we have a building that still has part history in it. There's a story to tell about it. And then what's in the environment, it will attract other people and other businesses that are probably close connected to going out, eating, having a hotel, and it will become more lively. So there will be a spot in Timaru, in the centre of Timaru, not away from everything, that becomes a hub for culture and meeting each other, and it needs to happen sooner. We've missed it for too long. There are many, many people, and particularly young retirees who would like to enjoy what's on offer, the plays and concerts, and you will see that theatre will be full every time when you have something to show. The Playhouse shows it. There's a lot of appetite for going out, and so for me, it's really, really important not to renege, not to go and make new plans and put it away again, because then it won't happen in my lifetime. It's going to be postponed and everyone's going to think about 20 other places. I really think that the plan we have, and even if it costs a bit of money, it's absolutely necessary that we go ahead with it. Sometimes you just have to spend some money to start improving the place, and it will improve once that's in place, but the sooner it happens, the more chance that we have of making a vibrant inner city. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. And questions? No, thank you. Really appreciate that. Now, before we rush off, we're just going to tidy up some business, team.